Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about my Colt 607 build. It's one of the coolest builds I've ever done, and it only took me 4 years to complete. Okay, I think we're going to try to get some micro details of every single part on this gun and really get into some really artistic details about it, guys. Isn't that what you want to see? Okay, just kidding. I'm not going to do that voice anymore. Sorry about that.
This video is brought to you by Greg's Grips. These are my Delta Elite grips. Available soon on the website, gregsgrips.com. Right now it's 1911 grips, but we'll soon be adding Beretta 92, SIG 226, and CZ grips.
This is, like I said, a build that has been about 4 years in the making. You know, between Corona and the popularity of retro rifles, retro AR-15s in the past few years, it's been kind of a chore to get all these pieces together and actually build it. This is an SBR. For those who are wondering, I don't think you should try to do this if you're not willing to actually make it an SBR, because it's just not going to look quite right. It's got a 10-inch barrel, and look at that stock. It's beautiful. All right, let's get into a deep dive on every single part on this gun, where I got it, how it all worked out, the availability now, etc. This gun was a humongous pain in the ass to build, but I am glad I finally have it. It is kind of like the American Crink. For those of you who don't know, Colt 607 was a very limited kind of semi-custom shop build from Colt. In fact, it was definitely a custom shop build from Colt in 1965. It was the first carbine. It was the first carbine length gas system. So this is the same carbine length gas system that's used on the M4 and all of the other carbines that are adopted by the military. So that was the first use of that. Overall parts on this are based off of a picture from the Vickers Guide. These guns were built with a lot of different components because, like I said, not very many were made. They were pretty much a custom operation, and I think they just kind of used whatever parts they had. Some of them have forward assists. Some of them have no fence receivers, so slick lowers. Some of them have combinations of both. So some of them have a full grip that's not chopped. It just depends on the individual rifle. I've seen a lot of different variations of this gun. It is the first carbine, and it is just cool. It's cool looking. I mean, it's like a mini M16. As soon as I saw it in the Vickers Guide, I was like, ooh, I'm going to try to build that. Little did I know that it would be really hard. Yeah, let's start going tip to butt on all the parts on this thing and where I got them and how hard they were to get, etc. All right, so starting out on the tippy tip, just the tip. This is a fake moderator. So the Colt 607 was built with a 3-prong flash hider that was used on some of the original XM16s and the early M16s. They found that the 10-inch barrel was hellaciously loud. So they came up with this thing, which, like I said, this is not a real one. The real one has, essentially, it's baffles inside. And it acts like a little mini suppressor. It doesn't reduce the sound a lot, but it just kind of tames that awful muzzle report. But the ATF retroactively said that those were NFA devices. If you had one, you had to register it, and most people either took it off or milled the side away on the original devices so they didn't have to register them. So I don't think a lot of the original moderators still exist, thanks ATF. But this is a copy, and this is from Retro Rifles, which is a terrible company. I ordered this this piece, and it was actually delivered in a timely manner, which is surprising. But it arrived, and the construction is just from a piece of bar stock, which is not what the picture is on their website. And it arrived with like some dents and dings on it, which is pretty disappointing. Come on, focus. Because it had clearly been installed on somebody's gun before, and they just took it off and sent it to me. Thanks, guys. It's also kind of annoyingly heavy and has, I don't know if you can see, but it's pretty much solid on the inside with only a small hole drilled through it. So it's just needlessly heavy. Moving back, we have this, which is a split washer. I don't know exactly what they used, but during this time frame, I believe they used split washers to attach muzzle devices. Moving back, we have the front sight gas block, which is original Colt, and the front sight gas block in the barrel, which has been cut to 10 inches, not 10.5, not 10.3. It is 10 inches. The original barrel is from a Colt 6520, not a 6920, but a 6520, which you can look up what that looks like, but it's essentially a 16-inch barrel carry handle carbine with the carbine length gas system. But most importantly, it has a pencil profile barrel, which when I was putting this build together, I was thinking about, doing a non-NFA build and get an 11.5 and pin and weld a big Vietnam flash hider on there. So it's 16 overall. I think that was not the right choice. I had a 11.5, I still have it, an 11.5 fat profile barrel. It just didn't look right, and I wanted to go with something that was a little more accurate. So I got that barrel assembly from Onyx Arms, which is a fantastic company. You should definitely look at onyxarms.com. The guy who runs it is a really cool dude. Unlike retro rifles, they ship out, same day usually, immediately. And whatever's on their website's actually in stock, which is really cool. Okay, moving forward, we have just the regular front cap, which is, the small diameter triangle front cap. Oh, and also the gentleman who cut the barrel down for me also removed the bayonet lug. These had the bayonet lugs ground off because I think pretty much interfered with the muzzle device. Okay, moving back, we have these triangle handguards. Now these are also from Retro Rifles, which, like I said, kind of an unfortunate company to work with, but they arrived and they're kind of the typical plasticky look. So I coated them with some Brownell's Alumahide, not Alumahide. I forget what it's called, but the Brownell spray-on finish. And I sprayed it pretty well, but unfortunately this finish takes like weeks to fully cure, and I kind of dinged it up and it got mushed when I was installing the handguard. So that's a little bit unfortunate. I might refinish it again or something. I don't know. This is the rear tail cap, or the rear handguard retainer, also from Retro Rifles, but here's a real kicker. So this is designed to work with handguards that have been cut. And I ordered these mini triangle handguards, which actually have a little end section that's designed to just go right into the slip ring, which I guess is what normies want, because this part is kind of hard to find. That's not what I wanted, and what ended up happening was this part, the triangle handguards, would not really work with this. So what I had to do was grind the ends of this off so that it all kind of worked with the slip ring. Moving back to the slip ring, this is a slip ring from an M16A1 parts kit. I guess it's an early M16A1 parts kit because it has the the flat slip ring. I kind of regret using that. The kit's kind of crusty. Yeah, there's a little bit of corrosion and some damage on that slip ring. So Not really happy about that. I might just get another slip ring and have it Cerakoted. The Cerakote was done by Race City Defense, by the way, in North Carolina. Really great company, super fast turnaround time. I think they did a really good job with this Colt gray. It's actually Springfield gray that's sprayed on super matte. Yeah, so the slip ring looks a little bit dinged up, but I guess that's life. Like I said, I may replace it. This is an upper from Brownells, back when Brownells was doing a lot of retro stuff. I guess they still do retro stuff. I believe it's Nodak. It doesn't say NDS. Maybe some of you clone tards out there can tell me what that forge code means. It's like an A with the little hat on it. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly who made this upper, but it was sold by Brownells as just a slick side upper. And that's just a normal surplus A1 rear sight. By the time the 607s were being built, I believe most of the parts were kind of getting a little more standardized around the XM16 period. Before this time period, like with the 601s, 602s, the parts were significantly different. Like charging handles were different, the lower parts were different. This is just a regular lower parts kit. Some of the pins, mag release and stuff might be kind of like not 100% clone correct. At this point, I just wanted to put it together and I think it looks fine. The charging handle is from that M16A1 parts kit, and you can see it's kind of a little bit rolled over, a little bit mashed, and that works fine. The bolt carrier group is also from Brownells, distributed from Brownells, and it's the slick side appropriate bolt carrier, which it's really cool that Brownells was doing that. I don't know who made them for Brownells, who made the BCG, but they did a good job and it looks pretty good. It doesn't look as good as an original Colt. It's not quite as shiny. It's not quite shiny enough, but it's correct. It's got the correct chrome. For this build, I think it looks good. It's appropriate for this build. Like I said, the this era, kind of like XM16 sort of era, is they had chrome bolt carriers, and if you had a slick side receiver, they would put the slick side bolt carrier in there. Dust cover is not the old style dust cover. For those of you who don't know, the really old dust covers, this piece is about half as long. I don't have one of those. Actually, I do have one from the M16 kit, but it's really crusty and it would look really bad if I put it on this rifle. It's like just really rusty. Yeah, so maybe I'll get one of those one day as well. But again, very small detail. The lower, I know you've been waiting for this, lower is a H&R. So it's obviously a partial fence lower, and that just means that it doesn't have the full fence around the trigger guard. But it's kind of a transitional receiver between the no fence, which is what Colt used on the commercial guns for a long time, and the full fence. So this is an H&R Commando Mark lower, and this is kind of a saga. I guess I'll get into it. The lower took me forever to get it, to find the right one that I wanted. There is no Colt 607 marked lower that's a 100% lower that I'm aware of. During Corona, there's kind of a time period where there was an extremely high demand for these kind of retro parts, and also, I'm not going to say no one was making them, because Nodak was making them, and this is essentially a Nodak Spud lower. However, PSA acquired Nodak Spud a couple years ago, and I guess they have been making parts, but instead of being distributed through Brownells, they're now distributed through Palmetto State Armory, which is in South Carolina. So during that time period, I guess they were transitioning over. Brownells didn't have the parts anymore. PSA didn't have the parts yet. Also, PSA acquired the H&R brand, which is Harrington and Richardson, which is that Lion. Obviously, that's not clone, correct? That's not a H&R never made a 607. This is all Colt at this point in 1965. And also, it's Commando marked, so that's like not the most accurate either. The Commando was essentially, I think of it as like a catch-all term for the XM 177 E1s and E2s and those kind of the next generation of carbines. This is pretty much as close as I'm going to get to 607 appropriate. It's Vietnam era appropriate. It looks fine, and it's got that partial fence, which is really the main thing that I cared about. There was a time period during the past couple years where I was tempted to get a partial fence lower from this company called International Milco, which is also known as Russian Paint. And they have like really awesome, totally clone correct lowers. So they have 80% lowers and 100% lowers for sale. But the price point, now they are really good. They're really high quality, and they do the color matching to do a really nice gray. But the price point was just a little bit too high for me. I think they sold a lot of receivers to people who were doing clone builds to make the exact right lower. But this is close enough for me. I think it looks the part. Moving on from the low, like I said, this is just a standard lower parts kit. Yes, I know this isn't gray. It's black. It's supposed to be gray. Also, the latch on the charging handle is black. It's probably supposed to be gray. Maybe I will have those cert-coated later, but as of right now, they're wrong. The pistol grip I chopped myself. This is an original Vietnam era Bakelite pistol grip. And you might say, boy, that looks really short. Well, it is really short. It's really short because they were really short. I literally copied the one in the Vickers guide as best I could, and it's just a teensy bit shorter than the 20 round mag. So these things are designed to be really compact, and like I said, I haven't shot this thing yet, but it doesn't feel too bad actually. It's kind of like the original Reptilia grip for this Vietnam era gun. And believe it or not, I've seen even shorter chopped grips. This was terrible to work with, by the way. Don't ever chop these without like a respirator on, because I think it's just like fiberglass and asbestos. Okay, so finally, the most important piece, as far as I'm concerned, and that's the stock. Now, I think I have a separate video on the stock. I definitely recorded a separate video on the stock and taking it apart and everything. For those of you who don't realize, this does extend to be a normal kind of A1 length, a usable length for a stock, and then it locks in place. So that's in the locked position. That won't collapse or anything. And then you unlock it, and normally it's a little easier than that, but I'm behind the camera, so and then you can lock it back. So this is something that I considered building myself, because when I got it, this is from ordnanceresearch.com, and apparently they make the end plates out of billet, and there's a lot of billet components in here, so it's kind of expensive to make and labor intensive. So it's never been cheap. I bought it for, I think, $500. That was extremely salty. I was really upset about it. I was like, fuck, do I want to make one? Do I want to try to like cut down the stock and make one? And I think I could have, minus the end plate. The end plate, like I said, I think the original ones were probably cast, but the end plate and the lever are like a solid piece of aluminum. The stock is actually very heavy. It makes the gun sort of weirdly stock heavy, which is unusual for an AR-15 or really any rifle. Folks at Ordnance Research really did a good job, and it's pretty much as close to an original stock as you can get. Now, it's not 100% because the rods. Well, I guess this is a tube and this is a rod. Originally they were screwed in and pinned in place, and I think this rear section was drilled and tapped for the rod to go in, and then it was pinned. So the real 607 will have two pins, like roll pins, pinning these in place. Here in 2023, I don't want to do that. That seems like a pain in the ass, not to mention unnecessary. So what they did was they just added this plate and they welded this rod on there. And then this just screws into the receiver just like normal. So that works out pretty well. Like I said, I didn't really want to do the 100% clone correct, like drill and tap and then pin everything in place. This is good enough for me anyway, and I think it's good enough for most people. If you really want to do that, I guess you could cut off that end plate, but yeah, so that's all the parts. This has been a wonderful time building this, and I've had a lot of help, people telling me, in-stock notifications and stuff. And there's my cat being really annoying.
Hello there. As you all know, the Patriots have raised the prices on everything to stimulate the war economy. This means that the cost of production has really gone up. If you feel like supporting the channel, please like and subscribe, tell your friends, share the video, and if you want to be really good, click the link below for the Patreon.